Grand Theft Auto isn't exactly what you'd call a freaky game series, but you'd be surprised at how weird it can get. Hi folks, it's Falcon, and today on gameranx 10 Grand Theft Auto locations that are freakier than you thought. Starting off at number 10, the Glass Tower in downtown San Fierro in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Now, there's a lot of towers in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, but most of them are pretty generic. In some ways, almost completely indistinguishable from one another. Not this one though. This one's a little bit different. The first thing you notice about this building is that it's distinct, and how distinct it is. It's one of the largest in the city and a large sculpture of a DNA strand, which is not how I would build a building. You can also enter this small foyer area and you'll notice some pretty interesting details. There's a sign near the entrance that reads, Zombotech Sinister Zombie Virus Research Corporation welcomes visitors. Look at the elevators. Floors 1 to 6 only. Floors 7 to 13 only. Zombie Lab only. It's very bizarre and it's kind of secret. I mean, you never see this stuff unless you got out and looked. It's funny, but it's also kind of freaky because when this stuff kind of appears in a game and it's not really content per se, it feels much weirder, in my opinion. It seems to basically be a reference to the Umbrella Corporation from Resident Evil, although it's way over the top. At number 9 are the Romero Apartments from Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Now these look like a totally normal apartment building. They're nondescript, there's nothing particularly different about them on the outside. However, it also contains within it the Funeraria Romero, a funeral parlor. If you look around the back, you find a small set of open graves, one containing a skeleton with a missing arm. That's, pretty freaky on its own, right? When you think about somebody planning a game, they're like, it should have a grave, and inside the grave there shall be a skeleton, and the skeleton shall have only one arm. And you think about the other developers listening to them like, guys, I think Mike's a little weird. But of course that's not all. There's more. There's another nearby location, the Carnicero Romero, which is a butcher shop. You look in the shop window and you'll see some pig carcasses hanging up, but there is more. There's a white box that says human organs for transplant. You'll also see a human arm. Strange, right? Very strange. That skeleton didn't have an arm. And you also see a brain. There's one thing that connects all these different locations to Romero. You know, outside of being an obvious George Romero Night of the Living Dead director reference, it implies all these businesses are owned by the same people. Missing arm and a skeleton, arm in a butcher shop. There's some cannibalism going down here. The question is it the Romeros that are the cannibals themselves, or did they just find an incredibly lucrative business model? At number 8 is Mount Gordo from Grand Theft Auto 5. One of the 3 named mountains in Grand Theft Auto 5, the other 2 being Mount Josiah, which doesn't have anything special about it, and Mount Chiliad. Mount Gordo looks pretty normal at first glance, nothing but wilderness, but if you come out to the mountain between 11 p.m. and midnight, you can see a ghost on top of the mountain. Now if you try to approach it, it will disappear, so you gotta kind of look at it a different way. The best way is the sniper scope. If you view the ghost from an abandoned camp on the east side of the mountain, you can actually hear the ghost scream. Also, if you look on the rock the ghost is floating over, the name Jock is written in blood. The whole thing seems to connect back to a background GTA 5 character named Jock Cranley who, well, killed his wife. Weird. At number 7 is El Castillo del Diablo in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas. Located in Bone County, these distinct rock formations can be found from miles away. It's based off of the real-life Monument Valley. There's a little tiny ghost town nearby called Las Brujas. Las Brujas, of course, means the witches in English, making this ghost town a little bit freakier. But knowing a tiny amount of Spanish that you definitely didn't get from Google Translate or anything like that isn't enough to really solidify this place as freaky. Which is why when you go to the Central Mesa, you find something surprising, a mass grave. Inside the hole, you'll find 6 body bags with a Bobcat pickup nearby, presumably the vehicle that was used to transport the bodies here. No one knows exactly what's out here, but southeast of El Castillo del Diablo is Area 69, nice, which implies that this could have something to do with Area 69, which is of course an analog for Area 51, a crude analog with a funny joke as its name. But perhaps it's a secret government cover-up or something like that. Another possibility is that they're the bodies of Mary Beth Maybell's husbands. She's a host on K-Rose Radio and references the fact that she had 6 husbands who all died in some gruesome fashion. 6 husbands, 6 body bags. K-Rose is broadcast in Bone County. El Castillo del Diablo es in La Bone County, so it is possible. Possible. I mean, there's no confirmation on this. It's one of those really cool pieces of lore that's kind of non-committal and keeps you wondering forever. Regardless of the why, it's a freaky detail in an otherwise pretty picturesque location. At number 6, it's Mount Chiliad from Grand Theft Auto V. Now this is a mountain we've talked about in different videos for different reasons, and it's in different Grand Theft Auto games even. A whole mystery surrounds this area that really didn't amount to much, but still it's a mysterious location with a kind of freaky surprise if you're willing to get 100% completion in this, well, ridiculously large game. In the cable car station, there's a cryptic drawing on the wall with a bunch of symbols, the most prominent of which is a circle, like a thing above the mountain. On the observation deck, which is nearby, it's made of wood, you can find a hidden message that says, "Come back when your story is complete." Under the desk, you can also see that there's a big red eye painted on the ground, and it looks just like the symbol from the cable car station. Now, if you've bothered to get 100% completion, which means 69 nice story missions, 20 Strangers and Freaks missions, 14 random events, 42 hobbies and pastimes, and 16 miscellaneous tasks. Once you have done all of that, you return to the observation deck during a storm. And keep in mind that is an important component. Need that storm at 3 a.m. and you will see a UFO. There are actually other locations you can find UFOs in GTA 5, but this is probably the most noteworthy because it's probably the most you have to do. Obviously, aliens are among us. At number 5, Apartment 3C in Grand Theft Auto Vice City. It's just a random apartment that you can enter for some reason. It's found south of the Pay and Spray in Ocean Beach. You look for the building with the pink roof, you look around, you find some stairs leading to an apartment. It seems normal, but you explore this room further and you find a chainsaw in the bathroom and a wall covered in blood. Of course, it is a Scarface reference. In a lot of ways, Vice City is Scarface adjacent, so it's not weird to find a Scarface reference. However, it's really spooky to find something like this in a random hidden location, especially if you aren't really thinking about like how it could be a reference. If you're just like, oh, there's a chainsaw in here and blood everywhere. Yikes. Originally, the apartment was going to be a safe house. You would get it by completing a mission for Sonny Forelli, and you would kill the dude living there. So even though the apartment really has no function in the game anymore, they decided to leave it in as an Easter egg, I guess, because it's interesting at least, and definitely a little freaky. At number 4 is Merle Abrams' house in Grand Theft Auto V. In Sandy Shores, there is a decrepit old house you've probably driven past plenty of times, but if you actually stop, get out, take a look, there's some creepy stuff to be found, let's just say. If you look around, the walls have various messages that have been left, which continually reference the number 8. You can also find a note in a different burned out shack on the outskirts of Sandy Shores that talks about a serial killer called the Infinity Killer, who killed 8 male joggers in 1999. The article mentions that he was imprisoned in Bolingbroke Penitentiary, another location you can go ahead and find some creepy writing left by the Infinity Killer. There is even more beyond that. You can find a rock outside Sandy Shores that has a nursery rhyme, presumably left by that very killer. And there's one final thing. 8 bodies can be discovered wrapped in plastic in and around this cluster of islands north of Mount Chiliad. You don't get anything for finding any of this stuff either. You're just kind of chasing down an old murder through a series of creepy clues that begin in this nondescript ruin you find in Sandy Shores that you have no obligation to pay attention to at any point. And number 3 is the internet in Grand Theft Auto 4. I think we can all agree that the internet, the real one you're, on now, can be a pretty creepy place. Grand Theft Auto 4's internet is not too big, but it does find the space to hide a little creepy stuff, like numerous references to a mysterious serial killer out loose in Liberty City, of course. You do a little snooping, and you can find these 2 pretty creepy pages. There's a My Room profile for a guy named Eddie Lowfilth Slayer, and another page on Blogs and Snobs with the same name. These two pages go into detail about this guy's supposed crimes, and just like the Infinity Killer we were just talking about, his preferred target seems to be late-night joggers. So if that's something you like to do, understand that people at least think of you as a possible serial killer target. Doesn't mean you're gonna be one, but keep it in mind. You'd think it'd end with the post, just some creepy clues, but you can actually meet the guy. He's a random encounter that becomes available after the big bank heist mission. After you've completed that, he appears in Alderney City between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. and is pretty much immediately obvious who he is and that there's something wrong with him.
I knew a Joker once. Lovely guy. Came to a rather unfortunate end, though. But I suppose we all do.
Thankfully, you get to kill him at the end of your second encounter, and that stops his murder spree, of course. But there's one more creepy detail beyond that. His blog keeps updating even after you kill him, so did he plan out his entire spree and schedule posts for it? If so, yikes.
You're creeping me out.
At number 2 is the Mineshaft in Grand Theft Auto 5. Another pretty mysterious location. Originally one you really couldn't do a lot in. You'd find this boarded up mine entrance in the Great Chaparral region, but there wasn't really anything you could do there. However, in the Enhanced Edition, you could use an explosive to blast the entrance open and explore. There's a few different directions to explore, and they all lead to dead ends, but there is something interesting to find. There's a dead body in a pretty unique 1940s suit. This is connected to an entire murder mystery involving various mysterious writing on lots of different things in Los Santos, and even a clue you can find in Solomon Richards' office if you sneak into the movie studio at night. Like, there's a whole backstory to the body with a lot of movie studio intrigue. It is Los Santos after all, and don't even kind of pretend that the movie industry isn't full of that in real life, especially during the golden age, the 1940s. But even just kind of finding this corpse out in the middle of nowhere is freaky enough. You actually get vintage filters for all of the main characters' phones if you find him, which I think is just a really funny detail. And finally, at number 1, the Statue of Happiness from Grand Theft Auto 4. This is maybe the most well-known weird location in a Grand Theft Auto game, but it's well-known for a reason. First, it's big. Second, it's obvious. And third, of course, it's strange as hell. It's the Statue of Liberty with some noticeable changes. Instead of the torch, the statue holds up a cup of coffee, perhaps a reference to the hot coffee mod. And also, it looks a lot like Hillary Clinton. I mean, that's goofy, of course. Why that exists, I don't know. But if you go inside the monument, there's something, it's unsettling. It's a giant beating heart that's held up by chains. You can't do anything to it, it's indestructible, and it seems to serve no purpose whatsoever other than to be a giant beating heart inside a large statue. Which is one of those things where when you have no explanation whatsoever, it comes off so much weirder. It's creepy, it's completely random, and there is nothing else like it at all, anywhere in the entire Grand Theft Auto universe. Have you been to any of these places, seen the freakiness? Maybe you're thinking of another freaky location. Leave us a comment, let us know what you think, and if you like this video, please click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We upload brand new videos every day of the week, and the best way to see them first is, of course, a subscription. So, click subscribe, and don't forget to enable all notifications. As always, we thank you very much for watching this video. I'm Falcon. You can follow me on Twitter at Falcon the Hero, and we'll see you next time right here on gameranx.